propensity to jam on occasion. This is true today. This was way more true in 1983 because, we've had, I don't know what, 27 years of working on printers since then, right, to make them better. And so when their line printer would jam, what would happen? You'd go to see if your printout came out and the printer was jammed, And so you'd learn after a while that, that there was a good chance that when you went to go get your printout, it wasn't there. And you could fix the printer and so on, but like the 30 people that were queued in front of you, their printouts would come out first, right? And they were fast because they could chunk out a line at a time, but they weren't fast like we think of fast today, right? So you'd go back to your office, and then you'd come back later, and what would you find out? You'd find out the printer had jammed again doing the 30 people in front of you, right? Well, eventually what you'd learn to do is you'd learn not to go look right away, You'd print something out and I'll go get it in a couple of hours. And then if it's jammed, well, other people will find it, and they'll fix the jams, and they'll wait, and eventually my printout will be good. So I'll do other things, and then I'll go get my printout later, right? But everybody is as smart as you at MIT, right? So we all do that, right? And so what they decided to do is they wrote into the operating system, part of the driver could talk to the printer and see that it was jammed. The printer could tell, when it was jammed. And so when the printer would tell the computer that it was jammed, the computer would look at the queue, and it wouldn't email everybody on the queue, because there's really no point. It only takes one person to fix the queue. And the person who probably has the most incentive to fix the queue, to fix the jam, is the person whose printout is coming next. And so the driver would look through the list of people and would email you and just say, look, your printout is coming out next. If you go fix the jam, you could have it. And solved a lot of problems for him. It was a really great idea. It's very simple. It addresses the way people really behave, and so on. Well, they get this new laser printer, which of course is prone to jam on occasion, maybe, not like a line printer, but still. Only the whole how does it talk to the computer was inside a proprietary driver. Came with the printer. And so it kind of busted their really clever idea of let's ask the printer if it's jammed, and if it is, we'll email the person whose printout is coming out next, and we'll have them fix it. And so so he's sort of stymied. He calls around. He tries to do various things to, make progress on this little dilemma of his, and he's not really got anywhere. Well, he's at a conference or something. I forget that story entirely, but he meets somebody who's got the source code for the printer, who is in an agreement with Xerox, doing research or whatever, and he's got the source code for the driver, and they're like, oh, and he's like, that's great, can I get the source code from you? And the guy says, well, no, actually you can't, because part of my agreement with Xerox was the non-disclosure agreement that I signed, and it says I won't share their proprietary technology with other folks, so you can't. And it was the first time Stallman had ever had that happen, because the way computer services would have worked back then, because it wasn't computer services like we have ITS, it was always the computer department. It's very collaborative. When you got an operating system for your computer, it came with source code. People didn't think, before Bill Gates, this is probably his really good idea. I mean, you can call him good and bad and evil and brilliant and lots of things, but his one really great idea, I think, was realizing that the software on the computer was valuable independently from the hardware of the computer. That before that, people said, well, you got to have software for the computer. Who's going to buy your computer? It was always software was a way of getting machines out the door. And Bill Gates was the person, I suppose, that I would say most tangibly realized, no, you could sell the software, that sort of independently is valuable, that's concretely valuable, separate from the hardware. So before that, when people were thinking, well, software isn't valuable, it's a matter of getting the hardware out the door, Well, we'd give you an operating system for your computer, we'd give you the source code, it was a very collaborative thing because we weren't thinking about the software having value. And so you had a lot of freedom, you had a lot of the collaborative kind of environment that you hopefully have here at Truman, they had with their software vendors. You got source, you got a lot of freedom to make your computer the way you want it. And then he ran into this and it really bothered him. It was sort of the first sign of that world of collegiality being destroyed for him. And so he did something that none of us would have done. He quit his job at MIT and decided to write an open system. He quit his job at MIT because as long as he was hired as a computer professional at MIT, any computer work that he did could potentially be entangled based on his contract with MIT. When I do stuff at the university, it is complicated to decide what stuff is mine and what stuff is the property of the university because they have an interest. They supported my research or provided my office and my computer and so on. They've provided tangible support to the things that I've created. So it's not clear exactly what the university owns and what I own. So Richard Stallman is working at MIT. He quits so that whatever he decides to do won't be entangled. And I don't know how long it took him to come up with these ideas, but he came up with a way of trying to preserve that environment that he had experienced, that when I make something better, I share the changes back with you, and you make it better, and you share the changes with me. And when Dr. Goggin comes on the staff, we share them with him too, because that's what we do. And so we came up with the copyleft. You might have seen in the old days we used to say things like copyleft, all rights reversed instead of reserved. And there were sort of cute little funny things. Some of that has been ironed away by the attorneys over the decades, but even now, if you're interested in free software, you have to be interested in the license that he essentially came up with, which is the general public. It used to be called the GNU public license, but GNU itself is a sort of problematic joke in that it's very technical and not that funny. And so it's now called the General Public License. There's several versions of the General Public License. I will be honest, my favorite version of the GPL is version 2 because it's the last version I really thought that non-attorneys could read and enjoy. It really explains the idea of free software very eloquently and concisely, and is a perfectly good, solid license as well. Now, I will be honest, I sometimes will apply the later licenses to my own code because the attorneys have probably made the licenses better. But I have to say I really have a soft spot. If you want to learn about free software, I think a great way to do that is to go back and read the license that really started it, the license that he wrote. And I think version 2 is the best version for studying. It was really, really, really clever. The license is just an amazing, stunning accomplishment in my opinion. What they did is, the very first thing the license does is it claims copyright. So I wrote a creative work. Of course, under law, if you make a creative work, you immediately are granted copyright. In the old days, sometimes you register something for copyright. It's not like that. Not in the United States. Maybe in other countries. I don't know. I don't create creative works over in other countries. But in the United States, if you make a creative work, the law says this is your creative work. You have a copyright, and it lasts, I don't know, a long time. Like 75 years after you die, the copyright still belongs to your estate. Some atrociously, inappropriately long time. That's a whole nother talk. But the first thing the license does is it asserts the copyright that you already have. This is my work. I am claiming it as my copyrighted work because I created it, as opposed to say, I'm putting it in the public domain. That's a totally different kind of idea. So I assert that this is